guys? Welcome to the West Coast Initiative podcast. I'm your host, Alex Castillo, here with another great episode. And I have another great guest here today. And your guest today is Joshua Hall. He's a electrical engineer. He also is a UCR alumni. He works with a lot of drone stuff with General Atomics. And he's also a great father of two. How are you doing today, Josh? What you been up to? What's life like right now?
Life is wonderful. Life is exhausting, but it's wonderful. I mean, busy with work, school, or my wife's school, and then kids. The kids keep me busy.
Yeah, I bet, man. And so, a little bit about you. I know, I mentioned a little bit right now that you're a electrical engineer. For the people or the guests out there that kind of don't know much about it, what exactly, do you do as an electrical engineer?
Engineering is one of those broad terms. Engineering is still broad. It's supposed to be specific to, I mean, circuit analysis and all. The spectrum is huge for just even electrical engineering. I do specifically, it's called reliability engineering. Or it's reliability, availability, maintainability. I'm a RAM engineer
What,
for
what,
General
what,
Atomics.
you don't want to ask what's a RAM engineering?
It's an acronym: reliability, availability,
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
maintainability. Um, so
Yeah.
we look at like so I work on the drone program, Predator drones, and we look at how the drones can fail, like basically down to like a single part, single component. And we say, okay, if this fails, how does this affect the system that it's in? And then how does it affect the aircraft as well? I also do like a lot of current failure analysis. So I look at not only like through design, we look at how things can fail, but we look at currently how the drones are failing, like
Mhm.
what's failing on the drones. We provide a lot of what's called it's MTBF, mean time between failure, the average time between a failure for a certain part or component.
Oh, interesting.
Um, we do a lot of those. So you look at the drones and it can be anywhere from like a little like servo to a like a panel on it that can fail, and then how like how that affects the plane if it's still mission compatible, if it's still there's all kinds of things that it goes into. It's
And
pretty boring actually.
I was actually gonna say it sounds like a lot of pressure,
uh, it's it's low pressure. It's low pressure for sure. Um, at least for our side of it. Until I mean, unless we miss something, and then but there's so many people that review it. Like I said, so I was watching your previous podcast, and Joseph Rouch, he's talking about technical writing, and I'm essentially a technical writer.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah,
In the flesh, baby.
yeah, that's literally. I mean,
And
I
he
don't.
said he has a lot of respect for those people because he's right. He said that for being a technical writer, like you need to like be as broad as you can for every single person that can read an instruction manual.
Cheers, by the way.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, I mean, we can't be we have to be pretty specific in our stuff because ours goes only it's all heavily controlled and it's only released to like there some of it is released to the public, but most of our reports are all limited distribution, meaning it only goes to the people that need to see it.
Mm.
Because there's some design aspects, there's some whatever it is, whatever the customer is paying for, and when I say customers, usually like U.S. Air Force.
Yeah,
um,
that's what I was assuming because I don't think anybody's getting a plain drone just like a random.
Yeah, there's no. It's definitely not sold to the public. We do a lot of what's called now foreign military sales.
Mm.
I don't really. I mean I support the contracts and meaning I like write reports for them, but I don't know any of those. We do have like drones going to all different countries now. Canada, France. There's a bunch. Most of that is all publicly available, like knowledge.
Oh, okay.
I
And
don't. I mean,
so, now that we dived in a little bit about your, engineering, I kind of want to go back to a little bit of background. I know I was, for the viewers, you're another SCP alumni. But you kind of took a different route. SCPA was, because I remember when we went, I mean, you started at sixth grade, I started at sixth grade there. For the viewers and the listeners out there, SCPA went from 6 to 12. Kind of a lot of people, if you listen to this podcast, you already know that. But Josh, when you joined, I feel like I don't remember you joining in an art specifically, but I remember you being in technical theater a lot. You were always very like hands-on uh kind of situations at school. And I remember, I mean, the sets that people that I will say the kids build at that school is fucking
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
And like I mean, I was kind of I remember I was like Patty. I remember I don't know if we really if you guys really built that set, but even then I think you guys probably brought some sets in. Les Mis, I remember was
Every
played.
set that was there was built in house.
Oh really? So okay, so
Yeah.
then I probably missed you wrong because I heard that it rented. But one of the best sets that I saw at SBA was Les Mis, which was awesome.
There could have been stuff that were rented, but I mean, majority of the sets were all done in house. Urinetown, if you remember Urinetown,
Oh
it
yeah, I
was
remember
this
you're in town.
whole
Yeah,
steel
I was like,
structure.
shit.
Yeah, and that was welded by. I didn't do any of the welding. That was I think Jazzy did some of it, and then Blocker had one of his friends come in and do it a lot of it.
Oh wow.
Um,
So
I did.
when you got to CPA, sorry for cutting you off, but when you
Oh,
got
you're
to
good. You're good.
when you got into CPA, like what got you into technical theater rather than going to an art? What really got you into SCPA? Like to be honest, because it's kind of a random school to go for that, and then coming out of SCPA, you kind of still kind of were the engineering part, right? That's to me
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
technical theater was engineering. You continued that path. So what from like an early age were you like inspired to do stuff? Like what was up with that?
So SCPA was my means to not go to Morris or O'Farrell.
Ah.
I know I didn't want to go to O'Farrell or Morris. Like I just wanted to go to like SCPA always. I mean, I'll be honest. From sixth grade on, it was that I was told 2-to-1 girl ratio, guy to girl ratio, and so at my little sixth grade, what is that? 12-year-old boy mentality was like, oh yeah, they're all dancers too. I did start out, so I went to Zamorano fourth, fifth, and then the first 2 weeks of sixth grade, I actually started in Zamorano, and then
Mm,
transferred. I got a call, my parents got a call, and they were like, "Yeah, we'd like to have Josh go there." So I started going there 2 weeks into sixth, and you and Kenny were the first two people that I talked to.
yeah.
Um, and then I started in sixth grade. You do like all the different arts, right? You
Yeah, the
did a
wheel.
little
It
bit
was
of
the wheel.
yeah, that's what it was called. Yep. And I did theater seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. I did drama. I was in Miss Lewis's class, uh, and that's what I auditioned to get it because our year was the first year we had audition.
Hmm.
I auditioned through drama.
That's what I was gonna ask. How'd you audition into their school? Because like I was always trying to remember, was there like audition for technical? Like were you supposed to, but
Nah,
actually I do think that there was an audition because I remember I believe Jazzy. I gotta look back at that
I
podcast
think
more.
Jazzy did. Yeah,
I think believe Jazzy made an audition and she actually like created like a little small set what she told me in that podcast for
yeah.
technical theater. So that's interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot that you were in drama. Wow.
No, I did drama. I was bottom in Midsummer's Night Dream. And then we did a show called Caucasian Chalk Circle, which was basically a show where all the like behind scenes were supposed to be shown as well to the
Mm.
audience. It was a very interesting show. Um, but after that, I was like, I can't keep on memorizing monologues. There's too much pressure. I don't like the spotlight. I don't want to be hidden. And then, I mean, tech theater, I just happened to take that 10th grade. I think maybe Powers like pointed me towards it, or I mean, it had to have been Powers. And so technical theater was just, I took it 10th grade and I fell in love with it. I still like, I still want to go back and do like tech theater.
Really?
The lighting designs, the sound designs, those, I mean, it, those were so much fun. If I can make what I make, what I'm doing now in tech theater, I would do it in a second, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I think that would take up a lot more time than what I do now.
Yeah, obviously.
Um,
I mean, Jazzy's living it right now, but I'm pretty sure she's,
oh yeah,
she tells me that, the hardship of working from gig to gig to gig to gig. So it's kind
yeah,
of like, it does, like what you said, it does take your time. And and it's possible, not for everybody, because, if you have a family like yourself, it's not for, traveling around. Like if you're single, yeah, it's awesome. But like if you're
yeah, oh
doing,
yeah.
If you have a family, you can't really support that subject. But moving on forward, like so, you did tech theater, you're enjoying it, you're loving it. Is this when you started growing a little passion or started to figure out like engineering, or how did
So
that kind of go?
that's engineering was something that. So my dad is an engineer by trade.
Oh, okay.
Um, he he's a technician. He got his like associates from ITT, um, and worked at this small company for a long time. And I during summer, my parents couldn't afford childcare, so I would go to work with him, and he'd like I'd sit at his desk or whatever, and he was the VP there, and all the employees would, they talk to me. That I was raised by them a lot. I mean, not raised by them. My parents raised me, but I was around them a lot growing up, so they all knew me very well, and they would always just kind of talk to me and kind of keep me interested in that. And they would give me math problems that were supposedly these advanced math problems, and they're like, if you figure it out, I'll give you $5 or something,
Oh,
whatever
wow.
it was. And I mean, I must have been, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 8 when I would go do that during summer, winter break. And I would solve these hard math problems, which were probably, I remember being like calculus level. Realistically, it was probably like 2 plus 2 type of stuff. Maybe with more digits, but it was probably simple addition. But I'd come up with the answer, and they'd be like, "Oh wow, good job!" Like they would act surprised or whatever it was. But that like
The hardest thing
at
was the
that point in time,
parentheses.
exactly, PEMDAS.
PEMDAS.
From that time on, that was definitely like it was settled in my mind that early on that I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be an engineer. I'd
Oh,
always
wow.
told myself that I was gonna work for Qualcomm. Qualcomm was like, because at the time growing up, Qualcomm was the big company
Yeah.
in San Diego. Engineers were making a ton of money, um, and it worked out. So Danielle's dad, my father-in-law, Tim, I think he was one of the first 100 there,
Oh, really?
which I mean, I don't know how Qualcomm is.
Gosh, it's like, I think you're losing,
You there?
yeah, it got cut off for a bit. You left
Yep,
off
there we go.
on, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You left off on your father-in-law, and then it got cut off for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I saw Frozen, and I was like,
Yeah.
but you know, Tim Nesbitt, my father-in-law, love the guy to death. Happens to be one of the original Qualcomm employees.
By the way, shout out
Um,
to Tim. He's an amazing dude.
yeah, I loved him.
He's an amazing dude.
Uh, I if I didn't like Danielle enough, I would definitely like her dad. So there's at least that.
So he was the first 100, and
Something like that. And I mean, I don't know if that's serendipitous or whatever that word may be, but it's kind of full circle. It's interesting that that's how it worked out. That he was one of those employees that I was looking up to when I was 5 or
wow,
6.
interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe 7. Yeah,
And so going into your college years, obviously you graduated. You went to UCR, UC Riverside. Tell me that experience. How was that experience going into UC school, the engineering school? What the challenges that you went through, how long you went through, and all that.
college was interesting. So I went into college, high school sweetheart. Basically that was the school that I kind of followed her there. And I mean, I would do it all over again. But it was definitely one of those. I don't know if I was prepared for it, like mentally, like, or but I was immature in the mind for going away to college. Um,
Why do you say that?
study study wise, I wasn't prepared for. I mean, classes were always easy. A high school, there was no studying in our high school. At least that's what it felt like, unless you're in AP classes, which I dropped out of AP classes because of that. I said no, thank you. So I had no study habit. I had no actual like work from home habit. And college, especially for us, was in engineering, it was all advanced math and all work from home. Teach yourself essentially. you'd get little lessons that were like the introduction, and then it was figured out from there. So college for me, like, definitely was a huge growing experience. I started out kind of staying in my inner circle, just kind of hanging out with powers. Made a couple friends here and there. Had a study group. Made one of my best friends, Jimmy. And if I didn't have Jimmy, I wouldn't have gone through college.
Shout out to Jimmy,
Uh,
man.
yeah, we got each other through college. Just the study, the long night of like every week before midterms or finals, we were there. We were in the library. We'd book a room for, I don't know, probably 60 hours of the week
Wow.
beforehand, and we would be in there. And
He's
then
an
I
engineer too
joined.
as well?
So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
he's an electrical engineer. Works out in LA for LA Power.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, so he wants me to move to LA. Shout out San Diego.
There you go, baby.
Exactly.
Padres right
My
here,
white
dog.
ass wall.
uh,
Uh, but so college, like, you start out, you had to figure out, I had to figure out how to study. I had to figure out how to teach myself. I had to figure out actually how to do homework because I didn't do homework. And then once I got better at that, then it was kind of figuring out the social life. I didn't drink until I was 20, didn't smoke weed until I was 21.
yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Um,
Yeah, wow. That I totally forgot about that. You were I wouldn't want to say a straight edge because you were not like squarish or anything, because that kind of gives a bad impression of being like a straight edge, being a square, because you weren't a square at all. You were kicking it with the homies, you were kicking it with everybody, but you were definitely disciplined of not like letting people peer pressure you into drinking or doing any kind of things rather than like other people who have I've been a victim of it. I'm like, obviously, I've, drank when I was younger, probably peer pressure, obviously, but like, but I think I remember I always told you, like, I was like, damn, that's very honorable of you. Like, you never, like, I think the most honorable part about that was that you never gave in to peer pressure, even like with me, because I've even told you in the past, like, hey, let's have a drink, let's have a drink, let's have a drink.
oh yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and it's not just me. I mean, it was like a bunch of people, fun bunch of our friends, and but that was like, that to me was astonishing to me. Not the part that you just didn't drink, but the part that you just no, that you knew how to say no. I think a lot of people don't know how to say no these days. It's very yes, 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 yes.
Yeah,
You know,
people pleasers.
yeah, people pleasers, like you said. But you were always a very strong head of like, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. Uh, so I kind of want to actually ask about that. Like, what brought you up to be like that kind of person to, people who are people pleasers, like what didn't you want? Why didn't you become a people pleaser? What made you so strong about being so stubborn about like, no, I'm gonna do it my way?
I think I was just stubborn. I think that's the right word. I was stuck in my own ways, and I think it's benefited me in life and it's hurt me in life. I think sometimes I could be a little less stubborn, a little more easygoing, but I think it was. I think the whole drinking thing. I think I had a fear of it. I had a fear of
Oh, really?
releasing control. I think that was a big thing. That I was stubborn about control. I was stubborn. Early relationships, early all that. Like I had a fear of not being myself. I don't know. I've always that's always kind of been there. And I think through college I joined a fraternity, Theta Tau, shout out Theta Tau,
Good to talk.
um, engineering fraternity. Like, it's supposedly, a lot of people think of an engineering fraternity as like a bunch of nerds, which I mean, it's plenty of nerds, but it's a lot of nerds that are like-minded and have a good time.
I mean,
And
I think of them as like the ones that are going to battle bots. You know what
dude,
I
I
mean?
I watch BattleBots religiously. All right,
Dude, battle bots is
I watch.
awesome. Oh, me and my son, we be watching battle bots. That shit is
Yeah, I
awesome.
watch it with Noah. We make it a whole night every time it comes on. We're like, all right, we got to sit down and watch BattleBots.
Yeah, that was like,
Nobody bothers
owie,
us.
owie.
Uh, this year, I want to take. I forget when it is because it all takes place in Vegas.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to take Noah. Those of you that don't know, Noah's my 11-year-old son now. Stepson, but he's my son.
Yeah, he's your son.
Yeah. But I want to take him to Vegas. he wants to go to Vegas. Every kid has that dream of going to Vegas for some reason, and then you realize once you go as a kid, you're like, Vegas sucks.
I mean, I think it's that 21-year-old age that like I feel like that gives everybody that conception like, oh, it's fun time, Sin City. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't like it because I didn't get to be able. I don't know if it's I think it's a little different now, but I remember back then in Vegas when my parents would take me, they would literally I'd have to wait with somebody at the fucking front door of the casino. Like it
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
fucking sucked. I think it's a little different. It's definitely I think more family friendly now. That obviously Vegas has I've seen we last year when we went, definitely saw a lot more family friendly stuff to do around Vegas, which I
We
wish
have
that
to
would have
support all
happened in
the
the 90s.
gambling dads.
Yeah. I know the demographic has changed in Vegas. But so you were in the fraternity, what was that fraternity like?
Amazing. I mean, I met a lot of good people. Jimmy was one of the founders for the UCR chapter, which I mean that was really cool. I actually found out after because Jimmy probably 6 months prior to me joining the actually joining or pledging, he had come to me and he's like, "Hey, there's a group of people that are trying to start it. I feel like you would really mesh well with everybody."
Oh wow.
Point, I was going through my one. Can you still hear me? I
I
just
can
got a
still hear you.
notification.
Just the audio
Okay.
went weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds different, but I can still hear you.
Yeah, you're good. Went through that whole thing, um, and so I was kind of like in a hole for a few months during college, and that's just happened to be when they were doing the founding of the chapter, and so I actually missed out on being one of the founders, which would have been really really cool. But I
Oh
was alpha
damn.
class, which is first class, first pledge class, which was still a lot of fun. Um, I was the oldest one. All the founders were all juniors and seniors, and I was a junior at the time, so I was 21. All
Oh.
the rest of the pledge class was all younger.
You're the old
And
group, baby.
at that point I was drinking, so then it was like, all right, time to drink. And I outside of the drinking, there was a lot of stuff to learn, preparing for business and actually being an engineer in the real world. My first job out of college was for, why am I drawing a blank? It was for a company. They did all the interior composite panels for Boeing and Airbus for some of their planes.
Yeah.
And I was hired as a temp, and that was actually my big Phil. Uh, he worked there and actually got me the job there. Or I mean, helped get me, but really got me the job there. And just through that, connections, getting work has been the only way that I've really found work.
Yeah.
You know, you got your
I
previous
mean
job,
that's how I've been like the last few years too. I mean,
uh,
connections it's sometimes it's not about what's that saying? It's about who you know, not what you know.
not what you know. Yeah, yeah. And I truly believe that. I mean, the job that I have now, and I've been there for 7 years now. Uh,
Wow.
General Atomics. I was, I ref soccer. I don't do it anymore now that I have the kids. But when I was single, like getting that extra money, I was refing soccer and happened to be talking to someone about looking for a job, and another person that I was refing overheard and was like, "Hey, like my team's looking to hire. Like you should, apply, and I'll put in a good word."
When
Um,
they said that, did you think that they were looking to hire a soccer player or an engineer?
I had kind of talked, engineer. A lot of people knew that I had my degree while I was refing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, and
That's an
he turned out
interesting.
he's like my mentor.
Yeah, that's an interesting period of I think I wanted to get into, but before we get too far, kind of do want to go back to the fraternity part of it, like because there's people. I'm naive to it, right? I'm naive to the whole fraternity sorority thing. You
Yep.
know, me thinking like fraternity to me is like old school. The movie Old School or like
Yeah.
partying. I think in my perception, maybe not, and people out, and I can't say for everybody. Uh, Fraternity seems to be like more of like a party type of thing. But like, it sounds like the fraternity, it's really a different type of aspect. I mean, talking to even Powers, he was in a fraternity too. Shout out to Joseph, by the way. Can you kind of dive into like what are the benefits of like someone who's out there listening to this podcast? Man, I don't know. I'm kind of lost in school. Should I, join a fraternity, get to meet new people? I'm in a new city. Because that happens, right? Like people go into a new city
Yep.
for a new school. You went to a new city for a new school. They don't know people or maybe they're introvert and maybe the fraternity is the best way to go route. Like what were the benefits of your fraternity and like the networking that you were able to connect and all that?
I mean, you said it right there. The network, that's huge. Getting to, I mean, when you're in college, there's so much going on. You're taking all these classes. You have all these different people in your class. Some of your classes are 400 or 500 people. How do you make friends out of that? And especially like I know I have my moments of being an extrovert, but I do consider myself very much an introvert. Like I'm very in my head. I like to like quietness and all that kind of stuff. And I think joining the fraternity, like at that point, I had in college, I had friends. I had 3 or 4 people that I would talk to regularly. Um, but joining the fraternity, I joined with, I think my original class was like 20. Um, my pledge class is at least 20. And then immediately there, I have 20 close friends that are going through the exact same thing that I am.
Mm,
And then after that, you have all the people that are already part of the fraternity. So another 20 people that are close. And now you have more people that you can talk to that are going through everything that you're going through in college. Especially if you join not just so there's social fraternities and academic fraternities. Engineering, specific to like your degree or major are those academic fraternities. And a lot of schools have them for all kinds of different things.
like what would be a
Um,
social? What would be a social fraternity? Obviously, engineering would be a academic one, but what would be a social fraternity?
so social is like your traditional like Greek fraternity, um, where it's all people that are going to college, but it's not specific to a major or anything like that. It's kind of
Mm,
they're just college. I mean, not just college students. They're college students looking for. I mean, a lot of it ends up being like business majors. I think are a lot of the times in social, but then there are specific to business academic. So it's kind of a
a mixture of
it's
all.
it's not necessarily black and white, yeah.
Yeah.
But social fraternities, the whole mindset was that social fraternities are more focused on that more social aspect, while still creating those bonds and creating a family. While the academic, we did a lot of, I mean, the study groups, making sure everybody was getting good grades, but you do that in social as well. So I I think it was just a term that we used that to kind of differ from non-major specific fraternities. You
Mm,
know, if you
gotcha.
if you weren't like a engineering fraternity or whatever it may be, business fraternity. Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of social. Um, Apologies to any of the viewers. I'm using my wife's laptop. I don't use MacBook. She got a MacBook.
Yeah, I feel like every time,
I got an
man.
Android.
I swear to God, for the viewers, like Josh and this other guy named Luis, really good friend of ours. Whenever they got a chance to bash Apple, they got to bash Apple.
I'm not bashing it. I just, we're having these technical difficulties, and I wouldn't have it on a
I
PC.
mean,
That's
you're
all I'm
you're an
saying.
engineer. It's what you do.
I
But
don't know.
so,
Jimmy and I used to fight about that stuff all the time.
oh really? So fraternity, that's cool. Like, that what you said, like you meet the 20 people that are doing the same thing. Afterwards, after you graduate, you're still very connected to this fraternity, like in some sort of way, or
In some sort of way. So I mean, I keep up with my fraternity like through Facebook. We used to. I mean, after college, everybody graduated, and we used to do like a yearly, um, like weekend getaway. Basically,
mm,
we did like Tahoe, Kern River, but as people have gotten older, it's just so hard to organize that. And I mean, you used to a lot of times how those work is you get 1 or 2 people that are willing to put in the time to organize.
and those people that were organizing it kind of, I mean, it's a lot to freaking do when you got other things going on. So we haven't had any, you know, I would love to get back with them. I feel like I'm one of the few that are from San Diego, so I'm kind of MIA. A lot of them live like LA or like
Mm.
NorCal. Um, but I mean, I keep up with them. I had a few at my wedding. Um, you know, Natalie, Phil, and Jimmy. And I mean, I see some of
Hey,
them
Jimmy
a few
was
times a year.
wilding at your wedding, dude.
Dude, we got some videos of that guy or some
Oh, I got
pictures of
some
that guy
videos too.
dancing. Phil was dancing though too. Phil was getting it.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't think I met Phil, but Jimmy was awesome, dude. Jimmy was Jimmy was really having fun at your wedding. I mean, we all had fucking fun at your wedding, to be honest. It was a beautiful wedding. Uh, so you graduated UCR. You know, I know after you graduated UCR, you came back to San Diego. You didn't really start going into an engineering career right away. Not gonna lie, I feel like you had a little bit of a struggle at one point. You know, and I think it's a good topic to talk about because I feel like there's a lot of students who get their majors and struggle to get their jobs and what they're in their field. And a lot of times, you know, I feel, especially when I was working at PB, like, you know, speaking to some bartenders and stuff like that, their majors, you know, what they went to go study, and they're still bartending like 5 years later, 7 years later, 10 years later, kind of thing. And it's just like, you know, wow, did you like, you know, because they couldn't find a job or they just got comfortable with the whole bartending. So, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like your little, you know, I wouldn't want to say hiatus from engineering, but like from that time from graduating to getting your first job in engineering.
Yeah, no, it's one of those. I think you go to college, you get your degree, you expect the degree is enough. But for a lot of the jobs, I think it looks a little bit better now because you know I've looked at jobs throughout, like even while working at General Atomics, you always kind of just get the LinkedIn, you know, recommendations or whatever. And there's some entry jobs that don't necessarily say internship or anything required. Um, but when I graduated college, you know, I got my degree. There's a whole story of I had to reapply to UCR. I don't know how many people know this. So I graduated school in August of 2014.
Hmm.
My degree doesn't say uh, August of 2014. It says like February of 2016. So I had to I had to take an extra semester or two or quarter or two.
Okay.
And so doing that, I didn't like I applied to graduate and do all those things and close everything out, but it wasn't processed.
Hmm.
Um, UC Riverside didn't process it. There was some administration mistake, and so I had applied for jobs and nothing really came up. Which thinking about it right now, it could have been because people look up part of the interview process. People look up your degree, and my degree wasn't there while I was applying for these jobs.
Wow.
And and so it got to a point I was just thinking about it. I was like, I never went to go pick up my
Damn, for
diploma. I
two
still haven't picked up my
years?
diploma. Like a
Fuck.
year and a half, yeah.
Oh.
Um, I figured it out. I think like 10 months after, but what I ended up having to do was reapply to UC Riverside, pay like a few $100s, and I didn't take any classes, but I had to wait till the end of the semester for it to be processed, the end of the quarter to be processed. So my degree says like February 2016 or something like that. I forget what it is. I think it's 2016. Um, but it was like a solid year and a half after I had actually taken my last class and finished my degree
Yeah.
that they processed my degree, my actual degree. I've never picked it up. Um, just I didn't walk. If I do it all over again, I'd walk. If I did school all over again, I would take JC, and I would do internships.
Okay, that makes more sense why I never saw pictures of you in like your graduation.
Yeah, I never walked because I took the extra. I took the
I
extra
thought you were
semester.
just being stubborn, you know.
I mean, that was, my parents. I my parents. We were in that like bracket where my parents supposedly made enough to pay for me for college, so I couldn't take out the full loans. They had to take out loans, but my parents didn't make enough to pay off those loans.
Yeah.
You know, so they had to. I think they're still paying my loans. I still am paying my student loans. Um, but back to the whole point of like that hiatus, there was the whole degree thing, but I was applying. I applied. I think there may have been a 6 month period where I took a break from applying, but without experience, work experience, whether it was internship or working in a lab at school, I I was just not seen as a qualified candidate for a lot of the stuff. Um, so doing college again, you know, I would definitely try to be in a lab. I would try to do some type of internship, have that on my resume on top of my degree. Plus, I also I didn't graduate with like a high 3.0 or anything like that. I had like a high 2 point something, like a 2.8 or something like that. I didn't have amazing grades,
Mhm.
which I would do all over. I would try harder in school. You know, you look at hindsight. Um, shout out Amir. Hindsight's 50-50. Um,
So, I mean,
it,
when you're going through that, you said you took a 6 month period where like you stopped applying. Did you stop applying because you kind of like your confidence was shut down? You just
oh
wanted to
yeah,
take a break down, or what was going through your mind, and what kind of got you out of that hole?
you almost don't see a point. Um, because you're looking at a computer screen, filling out these resumes, filling out these cover letters, doing all these applications, and I wasn't getting any calls. I wasn't getting occasionally, probably 1 out of 20 applications, I would get one email that would say, "You're no longer a candidate."
Oh.
So there's no feedback. You don't know what you're doing wrong. Um, so yeah, that took a toll. And then so 6 months, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna ref. I'm living with my parents. I don't got rent.
Saving it up.
I'm gonna, yeah, I drank beer and refed and kind of, it was probably good for me to get that out of the way. I was able to really enjoy. Was that 22, 23?
Yeah, our 20s. Yeah, I mean, I got to enjoy some of that with you too. A lot of that with you. You know, that was really cool times that we
Yeah.
that when you came back from UCR, we got to spend some time. But I know, like I said, I know you were dealing with that. So that's why I wanted to ask about, how were you able to get out of that hole, get your confidence back up and stuff like that. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure there's people out there that are listening, that are like, man, I can't even get a fucking, oh shit. Oh no. You back
Difficulty.
in? Yeah, I can hear you now. No, don't unmute you. You hear me?
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Audio started to come through my. That was weird. It disconnected.
Yeah.
I don't know if
No,
that's.
it's weird. It's kind of a weird. I don't know if it's your side or my side. That's like the service is pretty bad, but but anyways, but yeah, like we said, the whole confidence part about like like I said, there's kids out there or adults out there that are applying and stuff like that. So what is your message to them, kind of thing, of like who hasn't gotten a job in their field? What kind of advice would you give them?
I mean, it's hard because so. I mean, the reason why I ended up getting out of that, I talked to my dad. I was able to rely on my family. Um, my dad got me an internship at his work, but it was really like it was BS work. I was there for a few months and just kind of shooting the shit. Um, Paid a little bit of money, not much, and then from there I got the job from Phil out in LA.
Yeah.
So I mean, the connections are what helped me. But I know a lot of people don't have that. I think what you have to do is try to make those connections. Do your best to, if you're looking for a specific industry, whatever that may be, try to talk to people like that are in that industry. I mean, I know I've just been sitting at a bar and heard people talking about engineering, and if they're close to me, somehow I'll weasel my way into that conversation.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people, social anxiety is real. I struggle from
I,
that.
I feel like there's ways to different kind of going. I mean, I you know me, I'm very social, very very social. I
Yeah, oh
know
yeah,
And
You're doing a podcast.
and but I mean, obviously there's times where like there are some times where I like curb myself, right? Like just because I don't know other people, like how they're gonna who this person is, if like I just gotta read some people, like make sure
Oh
that they're
yeah.
genuine. But I think one way that I saw another way, like to communicate without even having to like really like show your face as much, I saw was groups like Facebook groups, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. That's
it,
huge now.
yeah, it's huge now. Like, I mean, we just got into like party rental groups. We just got in. I mean, I'm in podcast groups, getting tips and stuff like that. I'm in so many groups. I'm even in like an MTV challenge group, bro. Like, I'm a big fan of challenge. I know you're a big fan of the challenge. So,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
stuff like that. Like, and it's not even like you don't have to get into these groups and start right away discussing. There's already people having discussions where you
Just
can kind of
listen.
like, yeah, just listen. And that's one thing that I learned a lot in at least in the food industry is like listen. Don't like, because you learn so much in the food industry each day. If you're not learning something, you're kind of that's kind of my thing. If you're not learning something, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
you always have to kind of learn on the way. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was in a recent period where I had like a little bit of my confidence down, and I think um I don't know, I feel like my confidence got shut down because I wasn't able to do the projects I wanted to do per se. Like for
Yeah.
example, the podcast. This podcast was like a passion when I first started it, and it's still a passion, but so much trajectory between that time of from when I started to now has kind of made me pause it and like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And I know we discussed this before the pod, you and me having the interview, and I got for viewers who didn't know, like from the last episode, I got let go from my job, but I didn't take it as like, oh fuck, I'm depressed. I took it as like, it's a blessing in disguise. Like it's even with talking with Amber, because it was so cool talking with Amber about the situation. Like she got let go of her job and she's started her own private chef, and now she's booming, and it's kind of inspiring. And that inspired me to talk to people that are kind of like the same way. So, confidence, for some reason, I think it's very underestimated, and to not have the confidence of going. You know what's funny? Speaking of confidence, and this is kind of like off topic, because I remember in Kyle. I remember a while back when you and me were in our 20s, scrimmage. Remember scrimmage?
Yes, sir.
and uh and
Hey,
for the viewers who don't know, I this is a thing that my boy Kyle told me, to like have self-confidence in yourself when you talk to when you're single, like, go talk to, any lady. It doesn't have to be
you're
like
not trying to marry him.
you're not trying to
You don't
marry
even
him.
need
You're
to
just
take him home.
you don't need to take him home. You just gotta, talk, make a
You're
conversation.
practicing.
You're practicing,
You're
and
scrimmaging.
yeah, scrimmaging. And honestly, it helped me, but I took that practice and I took that practice not just in that, like talking to girls to get my confidence up, but I took that in, in my work life,
Yep.
like scrimmaging to talk to owners, like, people who you think of high importance, like how do you approach this person, because it's like you said, like you have to put yourself in those situations to get known because a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the fake it till you make it, in terms of confidence, because I mean, I I'm sure everybody struggles. I'm not, everybody struggles with
yeah,
confidence, at any given point, everybody struggles with it. And I think our brains are so wired to like be focused on what we're thinking. But if you fake it, if you fake being happy, if you fake laughter, eventually your mind will be tricked into start actually
yeah,
laughing and producing those, hormones, the oxytocin and all that stuff. It's the same thing with confidence. If you fake it, eventually, something's going to work out and it's going to click, and that confidence can actually help,
yeah,
and grow. And you could feed off of that fake confidence that you had.
yeah. Like, like Patty has noticed with me, right? Like the last few months of working at the last place, she noticed my energy was very down and I wasn't very excited to go to work. And she kind of told me the other day, like since I left and really pursuing the rental business part of it, she sees my emotions kind of 180, like just
Yep.
go up, you know, and,
Got that
and it's
drive
just,
back.
I got that drive, I got that energy, you know, and it's just like, it's cool, you know, so it's like, fuck, man, like this is what I kind of like, I needed that kick in the ass to get the fuck out of there, because maybe I wouldn't have left, you know, maybe I would have just stayed there, stuck in there, because, you know, my thing is like, obviously I have a family, you know, obviously I got to take care of them, but like, you know, my mindset was like, I got to have stability kind of thing, but
Oh yeah.
maybe, you know, it's like what some people say, like high risk, high reward, right? But you know, luckily, you know, I have money saved up where I'm not like we're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm in good shape right now. So you know, we're gonna ride the wind. You know, me and Patty are doing great. We're fucking killing it in fucking rentals
Proud
each
of you.
week. Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. And but yeah, I mean, so let's get back to you. A little rant on me, but
Oh, I'll talk about you all day. I love hearing stuff about you.
nah, thanks, man.
You know,
Appreciate it.
I love seeing it.
And so, you know, you got that conversation going with Phil, and that's kind of cool that you know, networking, that part of networking, even just in the soccer field, you know, like just hearing like, hey, like you're looking for a hire, like you got that. Did your confidence started growing there? Was it when you started working, or what was that feeling getting that first job?
The feeling of my first job. So my first real job was that temp job out in LA. And the day I got that job, um, I had a sorry, Danielle. My wife handed me a beer.
No, you're
Wonderful wife. Wonderful wife.
good.
Beautiful.
Shout out to
Absolutely.
Danielle.
um, but that first job, there's a song called "This One's Not on Me," and I just had like, I think I found it like within the week of me like starting out my first job, and I wasn't making any money. I was making, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000. I think was my total salary, but it was a temp job, and I think it was like a 6-month temp job, so I wasn't even making that.
Mhm.
But it was the first time that I was getting real paychecks. And I remember I used to commute from Norco to LA. It was like an hour and a half commute every morning, every afternoon, 2 hours at times, one way.
Wow.
And so I'd be listening to music, and I had that song on repeat my first paycheck. like I was gonna buy everybody freaking drinks, you know. That paycheck hit, and I was like, "Oh, my life's changed." And then,
I mean, in a way, it
you know,
did, right? Like
I mean, that
it
was
set you up for a trajectory upwards, right?
yeah. You want to talk about highs and lows, you know. So I was working for that job, did really well. Like the higher ups, the engineering director, all those things were talking to me about hiring me full time. Um, my senior manager, he's already, you know, we're talking about once the temp like time is up, they were going to bring me on full time. I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to move to LA. I'm going to do all kinds of things. And not a week later, I get my senior manager pulls me in, and he's like, I had no idea this was happening. You're gonna like, we have to let you go.
Oh
Like
wow.
the temp contract's done, and we don't have money for another employee. So I literally went from like, you know, working this job, first job, and I mean, I was killing it. I thought I was doing so good, and I mean, I still feel like I was doing a great job, but sometimes they just don't have money for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was saving up. That was Amir and I went on a trip to Thailand. Um, I had already set that up. It was mostly paid for. I needed a, like I got fired like 2 weeks out of that.
Before the trip?
Before the trip,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
And it was a 3 week trip, and I remember I was like, shit, I need to get a little bit more money. I need spending cash. You know, I need more money, and I got released. Had that 2 hour drive back. Had a good cry. Had a Love Yours by J. Cole. Shout out J. Cole. uh, that's I have like a one or two no skip songs, and that's one of them. Uh, and listen to that song on repeat for like a solid hour driving home.
Damn.
Oh, dude, I mean, you went from such a high to like, shit, I need more money to make sure that I have spending money for a trip that I'm going on, plus thinking I had a permanent engineering job. You know, I went from having a job to not having a job to, all right, now I have to figure out, I still have my parents, so I always have fallback, but it was such a low on terms, like that was probably my lowest for employment, where you go from thinking you have the job, thinking you're killing it, and then just being released. Uh, got drunk that night, and then woke up the next morning, and I was like, all right, let me call the soccer center, water tower, called Mindy, the manager there. She brought me on for the 2 weeks to ref before that. And during those 2 weeks of me refing was when the guy from General Atomics, David, who's I consider my mentor, he heard me talking about, oh, I need to find another engineering job, and actually got me an interview before I went to Thailand. Like the day before I flew to Thailand. I mean, so you're talking, I went from thinking I had a job in LA to being fired, and then a week later, preparing myself to interview for a job at General Atomics, which is one of the bigger companies. It's one of the biggest private companies in San Diego, engineering companies. All the rest of them it's all government owned or public companies. And so it was just such a wave of things. And then I was like, all right, like I interviewed, I was like, there's no way they're going to be interested. They were like, all right, yeah, we're probably going to want to bring you in for an in-person interview. And I'm like, well, I'm going to Thailand in 3 weeks, for 3 weeks. So I can't do it for that. And they were like, we'll wait for you. Don't worry. I scheduled it for the day after I came back from Thailand.
No way. I mean, you needed the job, right? I mean,
that's it. Yeah. It's like, I was like,
I mean,
yeah.
Usually when I come from like vacation, I take, because you need like a vacation day from the vacation sometimes, man. Because that should.
I needed a week after Thailand. I had a lot of drinking. I was with Amir. Amir and I sharing rooms everywhere.
No, and Amir is wild. When you go on vacation with Amir, he's wild, man.
Yes.
I mean, I've gone on vacation with a few times, so it's fun going with Amir. But I can imagine you being tired for that interview.
we were flying back, and I had like a study book that I was trying to read through. And I mean, I don't sleep on planes. And I mean, it was like a 20-hour flight from Korea back to LA. I didn't sleep the entire time. I was trying to read. Couldn't focus on anything. The only sleep because we flew back the 2nd, January 2nd. So this is after New Year's too.
You can't sleep on planes? Like, are you afraid of planes, or you just can't sleep in a
I
plane?
just can't get comfortable. I got my bad back.
Gotcha.
I just can't find a comfortable position. I mean, sometimes I will if I'm tired enough, but for whatever reason in that plane, I couldn't sleep. I mean, you're also having all the anxiety of having a job interview.
Yeah.
So when we were waiting in Korea, or it may have been just before we flew from Bangkok to Seoul, and from Seoul to LA. I think it was right before we flew to Korea. I sent them an email trying to reschedule. I was like, hey, like, I'm just getting back. I'm going to be sleep deprived. I don't think I'll do myself justice. And sure enough, they were more than willing. They were like, yeah, you're good. Oh, wow. You can do it all. You can wait. And I think I gave myself an extra 3 or 4 days. I was able to recover, interviewed. And within a week after that, they hired me. Oh, and so it was like, I was able to go from this job in LA where I'm commuting 2 hours to now working at a company that is a really big company that I had grown to actually. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of drone program. I think drones as a civilian casualty standpoint aren't the best.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy for someone behind a computer chair to blindly kill people, and I think that's what drones do. So I may work for the company, but that's how I make my living. I pay for my family, all right. And I know there's a lot of people that that you're going against your morals, but at the same time, my morals are keeping my family fed and taking care of my family, because at the end of the day, my family's my number one priority.
Yeah, that's gotta be, dude. Yeah. I mean, you gotta bring the bread to the table, baby.
You gotta make sure your kids are fed. you do anything for your wife, I will do anything for my wife. We got to take care of ours.
Also, you're doing it for your country too. You know what I'm saying? America. But
Yeah, there's
so you started working there, and I kind of heard you say mentor. One thing that I'm kind of always like, I always kind of ask the guests a lot, who was your mentor growing up, kind of thing. Surprise. I mean, obviously your dad would have been, as a
yeah, yeah,
as a mentor of
big
yours,
influence.
big influence in your life. But this is the first time I hear about this other mentor. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about? You said Phil, right? His name?
Well, Phil was my big my mentor. I would definitely consider is David.
Oh,
Um,
dude,
yeah, so David, he was the one that overheard me while I was reffing him.
not Ramos,
Uh,
David.
nah, that's Ramos. He's
Don't
trying to
confuse it.
just like Powers. He's trying to take his first name back, and I can't get over it. We got childhood invested.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so David Garcia, if you want his last name, look him up. I mean, he's an engineer, but
But
he's
what
now
makes him a
actually.
great what makes him a great mentor to you?
So he so when you join General Atomics, you do get a mentor to like kind of go through the new hire process, and because he is the one to bring me in, he was my mentor, and then just through that, I've always been able to go to him if I'm like curious about should I be applying for a promotion. So I've worked X amount of years. I feel like I do X amount of work. Should I be asking my supervisor or manager for this promotion?
Hmm.
Is that warranted? And he'd give me honest feedback. Maybe wait a year. No, this is the time. You definitely deserve that. He's always been that, like, in terms of my career. I mean, he also, he's a dad. He's married. Um, he has an amazing family. So even just family stuff, like we talk, we have pretty open conversations, pretty. I mean, not as regular as it was before COVID, because we're obviously not in the office. But we still talk pretty regularly, and when we end up talking, it's like hour, 2 hour conversations.
Yeah.
Um, and just good life advice and good work advice. You know, I'm now a level 4 engineer, which is like a senior engineer, I believe, for General Atomics, which I mean, I attribute a lot to him. He's a supervisor now, not my supervisor, um, but he's still on the same team.
What's
Uh,
what what's one thing that like he has told you that's like really like engraved to you? Like you gotta that take that's you got that takes you on for the rest of your career. Like you're always gonna remember that.
one thing, I'm not a big like one thing type of person.
Oh yeah, me too. Give me two, three, four. You tell me what you want.
I mean, it's more just general. I think it's general. Like, I think he is always reassuring. He's always caring. And I think compassion is probably what I would take. Compassion and empathy is what I would take away from him. Um, which I mean, I feel like I've always had,
Yeah.
but he he's someone that I could see exceeding my compassion and empathy, and kind of looking up to in terms of that, for sure.
Mm.
Um, always there for people. Um, you know, you don't know this, but we have to move. Um, we're Danielle and I are
You told us.
the
You mentioned it
I
to the
told
group.
the house. That's right. I told that I or
The group. Yeah, the text
the
group.
group text.
Yeah.
So I have to move, and sure enough, he's one of the first people. As soon as he finds out, he's like, "Hey, you guys need anything? You need to stay, whatever it is, let me know." He's just always there, and I feel like he's. I mean, uh, I potentially tore my ACL. You don't know that.
No, I don't know that. That's recent.
So
Playing soccer, I'm assuming.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, playing soccer. It all happened in the span of like 4 days. Thursday night, I tore my AC, or potentially tore my ACL. The MRI is not confirmed. Sports medicine, I went to today. The doctor did some tests, and he's like, "Yeah, I think you have a torn ACL. You're probably gonna need surgery. MRI will confirm it." So that's a fun thing.
Oh man, those AC those tears are not good.
I
I had one at the indoor place when we used to play,
I
and
remember, yeah.
that retired me.
I'm I'm scared. I'm scared that I play soccer twice a week.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
uh,
technology is so much. I mean, I think what retired me, honestly, like was my confidence. Like I can run. You know, like with my knee, I did physical therapy, I did the whole 9 yards, and I was still doing boxing. But I think was my fear of just not going back to soccer was just I just didn't want
doing
to
it
get it
again.
torn, doing it again. My fear
Yeah,
of like happening in it again. So I think that's just it's more of a mental state than the physical state, to
but
be
that's
honest.
legitimate. I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people struggle. I've never had a knee injury like this. I had like tendonitis and Oscar Slider's disease in my knee when I was, but that's like a growing issue. That's not like anything,
Yeah.
you know,
Drastic.
that's not as severe. I went to PT for that, but this is like the first time. I've never had surgery before. Um, so like
I was gonna
I'm scared about surgery.
it's gonna be cakewalk, dude. I mean, no, I had my tear, and then I had my meniscus tear at the same time. And I don't know, maybe because I already had one knee injury that I kind of already knew what to expect. And to be honest, I think my left knee is still like that. My left knee was one of my most recent knee injury. And I shout out to the doc. I forgot the doctor that that did my surgery, but
If
he
you
didn't.
remember your
Yeah,
doctor, I'd be impressed. All right.
yeah, amazing job though. He did a fucking amazing job, and to the point because he told me in the office like you're gonna be able to run, like you're still gonna be able to do things, like don't worry, like So, but like you said, it's just that mental part that kind of fucks you over afterwards. Of like, man, like you don't want to fuck it up again because you
Yep.
fuck it up this time is fucked up for sure.
I
So
mean, they're just going to keep on. You're going to get that cadaver ligaments that are
yeah.
being put in. They're just keep on replacing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
man. So
I can't.
I can't even get an MRI anymore because I have a screw in one of my knees. So that's like another reason why I don't want to play because I don't want to fucking get hit again. And then can't do an MRI. You guys gonna have to do something else to get in there, and that's just
The telescopic fucking
yeah.
inspection.
Patty sometimes tells me it's funny. Sometimes she's like, I feel like I got you from Wish.com.
you you work, but you're a little broken.
I was like, thank you, babe. Appreciate that. But yeah, shout out to Patty. Anyway, so you're going through an ACL tear. Damn, that's crazy, dude. So when do you know you're having surgery already, or you guys are
No,
just
so I went to urgent care. They were like, it's too swollen to do anything. I went to primary care. They're like, yeah, you have some tears in your knee, but we can't do anything for you. And they're like, I'd send you to sports medicine. And sports medicine, the doctor's supposedly a good doctor. I just met the guy, so I don't know.
is it in La
Uh,
Jolla Sports Medicine? La Jolla?
no, so I have Kaiser.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay. I was thinking Scripps.
yeah, no, I have Kaiser, so I'm all over. They have like
Gotcha.
4 or 5 different sports medicine offices. Um, so I went to him and he did some tests and he did he pulled my leg like away from itself basically, and he did it on my good leg and you could feel the ligaments like imagine this is your knee, you can feel the ligaments like pulling itself back in,
Mm-hmm.
and then he did it on my bad knee and it
It just
just
didn't
kind
go
of
back in.
pulled.
Mm.
And he's like, yeah, you got something going on there.
Damn.
It bears weight, like it hurts, but it bears weight, like it gives out if I misstep. But
Yeah. I remember when I was like, you know what? I had my tear and I was like, I think I can still punch the bag. Like, I'm not moving too much my legs as long as like I keep my legs there. But then I forget, like you still kind of like move your whole
yeah,
body. And then I was when I moved the straight, I remember it fucking gave out. I was like, yeah, I can't even punch. I'd rather just not fuck with it. Just wait till the day of the surgery and let's deal with it then.
I'm still trying to golf. All right.
Yeah, get that.
I,
How you gonna keep that leg planted, bro?
I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't golfed since. I golfed the week before I injured it, but then I injured it, so
Yeah.
I haven't.
And
You
how was
know,
your team doing?
my soccer team.
Yeah, how was your team doing at that time
So
when
I
you
have
blew it
my
up?
men's. I'm on an over 30s team. They're doing great. It seems like we were doing fine before, And then the co-ed team, I don't know if they've won since I left, but I don't think it's because of me. You know,
Oh,
I
backhanded
mean,
compliment.
I said I don't think it's because of me. All right, what is that, self-deprecating?
I know,
You know,
right?
they're just not playing well. You know, probably broken spirits. You know, shout
So
out Chili Penguins.
I know we got a little off topic,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
you're good, it's fun. But getting back to it, we talked a little bit about your career, how you got into it, and stuff like that. Actually, to be honest, I kind of want to get in a little bit about your personal life. Obviously Danielle is your wife. She's an amazing person. She's a beautiful, beautiful young lady. Uh, but I wouldn't want to. I don't want to say it's a problem. She did have a kid, Noah,
Yep.
who is your son. You consider your son. Not
Mhm.
many, not many will take that responsibility. You know what I mean? Of stepping in and stuff like that. And that's very like this shows the genuine person that you are and like the loving, caring person that you are to be able to
Yeah,
step
appreciate
in
that.
and be that father role. For people out there, who probably are in that similar situation, that are like who loves this lady who loves, the challenges of like raising a kid that's not yours, right? Like there's got to be some challenges with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you dealt with that? How have grown into fatherhood? How has that prepared you even for Leia, your daughter?
Yeah. Um, I'd say it's still a learning process. It's hard because typically when you're a parent, you I mean, you can have a one night stand, you can whatever, but you still have 10 months to prepare to be a parent. Um, I went into dating Danielle knowing I pursued her. I saw her picture online through one of my friends, bugged my friend to give me her number.
Shout
Eventually,
out Roxy.
shout out, yep, the matchmaker.
Yeah.
Um, and I bugged her. Eventually, Danielle accepted my number, texted within a few texts. Uh, we went on our first date, but I knew she had a kid going into it. That was one of those things. Roxy was like, "Yeah, she has a kid. You're aware of that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go on a few dates. It's not like I'm not marrying the girl." I think literally what I said to Roxy at that point. It's if I become if we get serious, then that's something that we'll tackle down the road.
Hmm.
And parents, you get that 10 months. I thought I'd get some time, but life happened quick. We were very serious. After the first date, I felt like I knew. It was just one of those things that when you connect with somebody on a certain level, I mean, we did like a basic dinner, then we walked down the beach, and then hung out like at the beach for hours and just talked. And like the connection was there, and at that point, I'm like, all right, well, I have to take things seriously. If I'm going to take her seriously, I have to take, I have to be in that mindset to be also a parent or at least a adult figure to this kid.
Hmm.
Um, and I think mentally, I thought I was ready for it. Um, and I mean, like I was ready for the commitment, and mentally I was committed to that, which I think is 90% of the battle. But you don't know how to parent until you're in a parenting situation. And like, with Leia, she's she starts out as this little baby, and you watch her grow, but you also grow with her as a parent. Noah was 4 when I met him. Um, and so he's already borderline full human. I mean, not borderline. He is a full human being, but he had his personality at that point already.
Yeah.
That's already established. Leia has her personality now, so I had to, and still am. I mean, I struggle with it on a day to day whether I'm too hard on him, whether I'm too easy on him. Especially being, there's a difference for me as a boy dad versus a girl dad. It's our society today raising a boy. Like there's more things that they have to be aware of because I think the biggest threat to women are men. So you have to teach your son like respect, and how I treat his mom is how I want him to learn how to treat women, whether that's, I mean, and then there's the whole this is whole parenting thing, sexuality, preferences, all kinds of things. And you have to teach him how to, for myself, I'm very open. I support people being people. And I will teach my kids to support that as well. You know, and people are, you just love people and you do your best to support those people no matter what. Don't trust everybody, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
you know,
dude, I'm not gonna lie. I just learned, not that I just learned that, but I just saw that documentary on Quiet on Set, man. That shit had me fucking
oh
going crazy all night of like trusting people. But continue.
yeah, oh yeah,
Sorry,
but
sorry.
so yeah, no, you're good, because I mean Danielle and I watch all those documentaries too.
That's,
Danielle has some stories too that maybe one day you'll bring on your podcast, because
I know.
you,
I mean, she's
you'll
my.
learn some shit.
Yeah, I
The
bet,
shit
man.
she's gone through.
Well, I mean,
Um,
just from knowing like her living in Brazil, I mean, I can't even imagine her living in Brazil, not even for, I'm assuming not knowing for a while the language, I'm pretty sure she had to learn a
yeah,
lot
she
of
had
things over there.
learn the language. Yeah. But back to like just learning how to be a dad, like it's there's days that I'm really hard on him, and there's days that I'm just like, why am I that way? You know,
Hmm.
am I being too hard on him? Like it's a constant question. And then also being his, not his biological dad. Like he calls me dad. Outside of the house, he calls me Josh to when it's just him and I. But if he refers to like if he's talking to anybody else, it's like my dad, my dad. You know.
Oh, interesting.
Um, well, that's just because I was introduced to him as Josh.
Josh, yeah.
You know. So it's a really hard learning experience, and I get really hard on myself, and there's times that I'm way too hard on him.
Yeah.
There's like I go through waves of like trying to discipline because he's 11, and you don't want, you want to teach him to be respectful and caring, but also you want to also teach him to kind of become himself, and
Yeah.
it's been this whole, I have an inner battle with myself constantly with that. um, it's definitely easier, I'll say this, and I think a lot of people, it's okay to say this, it's easier for me to raise Leia because she's biologically my child, you know but Noah's my, I always tell him, and I tell myself this as well, Noah's my chosen child. I didn't choose Leia. I mean, the viewers, Leia was an accident.
Yeah.
IUDs don't work all the time. Danielle had an IUD,
Ah,
and
man, I don't even think it's IUD, bro. I think it's the fucking pregnancy pack that Danielle, Ashley, and Patty did at that
that bad
time.
juju. Yeah,
Because
nah, it is
what a
IUD.
coincidence that like 3 months after each one, you have your baby. 3 months later, we have our baby. I think 6 months later, Ashley and Isaac have their daughter, and
Yeah.
then this is like it was a pregnancy pack. I think Ashley Naranjo was behind all this.
Nah, that IUD was still there. Right? I saw that shit. I think I still got it somewhere.
No,
Uh,
man. Don't be
but
looking to your right. Say it like it's right there the whole
I said, I was like,
time.
and right next to it, I sleep with it. I look at that thing and I'm like, man, fuck you.
But like you said,
But
you said chosen one.
Noah's my chosen child. So like,
Yeah.
but I also like, that being said, I have, I mean, I don't have to do it anymore. I chose to love him. I have to choose. It's just like with your significant other, you chose to, it's a constant thing where I have to always choose to love Danielle. I always have to make sure that's my choice, and I continue to make that choice because love isn't easy. Love is constant work.
Yeah.
You know, it'll always be, and so that's the type of love that I have for Noah, is a love that I have to make sure that I'm staying on top of and being genuine to. While nurturing love, born love, like to Leia, that's just there. That it's there's a chemical bond to that. It's really I don't know if it's hard to describe, but like it's there's more to it, but I don't know how to explain it.
Mhm.
Um, but
No,
that being said, yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
think I get the gist of it. Like, like you choose, like, it's right. You're right. You choose to love the person. Like, you choose to, if you want to be with this person, you got to choose also to love who they, who they have as well. I mean, Noah will grew up with, born and raised with her mom, right? It
Yeah,
comes with the package.
I mean, I will say, like, I don't love Noah because I love Danielle. Like, it was like that was the initial reason why obviously I invested my time and my love and my caring and everything to Noah was because of his mom. But I've told Danielle, that I mean, I think it's healthy to talk about life without your significant other,
Mhm.
um, to some extent. Obviously, not like I don't want to be, I don't want to have a life with you, but like you get into those like what ifs,
Mm.
like what if you weren't there,
Yeah.
and or what if we got like what would our worlds look like if uh, we divorced or whatever it may be, and it's obviously I'm like I'd be depressed, I wouldn't marry anybody else, but I also say I still want to be Noah's dad,
Yeah.
like there the love that I have for Noah is separate of his mother's love now.
Mm.
Like
Gotcha.
like I say, I consider he's my chosen son. I consider that, but that love also has to be chosen. And I think I have to always make sure that I'm expressing better to him how I love him and how
Yeah.
I can teach him.
No, you're right because I guess I mean, not that I guess there is stepdads out there that don't care about the other kid, and
Yeah, I think that's very common.
yeah, it's very common, and a lot of times I guess abuse happens within those stands. I obviously see you and Danielle have an amazing, beautiful relationship, marriage and whatnot. How do you keep that up? How do you guys keep I don't want to say the spark, the spark's always there, but how do you guys keep working for that love? Because like you just said earlier, love is hard work, right? So
Yeah.
what are the things that you do to help your relationship keep going at a really good pace, and grow stronger?
I mean, a really good pace. It's I mean, I also think people need to have a healthier viewpoint of relationships. I don't think it's every day gets better. Some days are worse. Some weeks are worse. You can have an amazing year and then have a shitty 6 months where you're figuring out. I've been with Danielle for 7 years, um, and we've obviously never had a bad 6 months, but we've had a bad week. We've had a bad 2 weeks. We have our fights. We're I think fighting is healthy because you through fights you communicate, as long as they're healthy fights, obviously.
Hmm.
You're not being disrespectful, but you communicate what you need in your relationship, because what I needed 7 years ago, I don't need now. You know, I don't need to be out till 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
once a week at the bar. I don't need that time with my boys all the time. I do still need it every once in a while. So those needs change. So I think constantly staying on top of, not constantly, but regularly staying on top of what you need in your life and out of that relationship. I think being able to communicate what we need each other, like need from each other as well as individuals, helps our relationship a lot.
Yeah.
Also, I think constantly, not constant, again, regularly, not constantly. I'm going to say that multiple times now. Flirting with your wife, trying to keep that like humor in your relationship as much as possible. I think I could do a better job in that. I think reflecting on what you can do a better job in your relationship,
Yeah.
I think having trust in your relationship, um, constant communication, like I wouldn't say like, holding each other to like what you're doing every minute, but like just reassuring. If your partner needs reassurance, reassure them. Don't
Yeah.
don't get mad at that they need that reassurance, because we all have our weak points. We all have our struggles, we all have our insecurities, and acknowledging that from your partner is okay. Even as men, we have our insecurities. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
we struggle, and I think men should be more open to communicating that. And I think I think women are more accepting in it, like as a general generalization to struggles for men, but I think there are some relationships where women could be more accepting of men's struggles. But I think a lot of it is us men have to communicate that. We have to do
Yeah.
a better job of that. Like I go through days where, I mean, the whole silent thing, when, you know, men are struggling, we go silent sometimes.
Uh, I'm a big like yeah. So sometimes Patty would be like, there's been times where like I'm not that like I'm mad at her or like I'm just mad at some situation
Just
and just
annoyed,
annoyed and just
annoyed.
quiet,
Yeah.
that she.
Hmm.
And then for some reason, then I'll get mad that like she's not like asking me like what's going on or and then like going half the day like she's not talking to me because she thinks I like I need my space kind of thing or whatever. And
Yep.
I'm like, why aren't you talking to me? Like, you don't care about me.
You don't give a shit. Yep. Yeah.
She's like, no,
No,
I thought you needed
absolutely.
your space. Like, no, like I need someone. But it's like you said, we kind of close ourselves sometimes. It's just like
Yeah.
not knowing how to like I guess express it out. Just, release it out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Patty, if you listen, you see me quiet, ask me what's going on.
I mean, I think the other thing is we also can't expect our significant other to read our minds.
Yeah,
So
true.
just like, you know, you're sitting there like, Patty, you don't care about me. I think that like, I mean, I've done the same thing to Danielle. We go through these points where we're making hints. You know, you're like, oh, come on, like we're kind of walking in the room, maybe open the door a little louder, you know, maybe putting down the dish a little bit louder, and
Going
we're
through their
expecting
house
our
all fast and shit.
exactly, yeah, and we're expecting our spouse to be like, hey, babe, what's wrong, or whatever it may be. But maybe our spouse just didn't hear the sound, or like thought you going through the house fast is you wanting your space. They can't read our minds either. I think that was something very early on in Danielle's and like my relationship is that's what we had to figure out a lot of it. We used to have just like long conversations where she's like, I have no idea what's going on in your head, which we still have that conversation come up because I still have some of the same issues.
Yeah.
I, we can we can voice these things as, oh, this is what we need to do better, but until we actually do those things, it's still there, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I'm guilty on that too. And I gotta work on that, to
But
not like
it's
today, but like, like I said, I have good energy, but like the other day, it's funny. I was actually in a good mood, really good mood, and woke up and she thought I was mad for some reason because I was like,
and
fucking, I was getting the
then now
tables
you're in a
ready.
shitty mood, and now you're
Yeah,
in a shitty
yeah. No, I
mood.
was, and then I got the tables ready, got the fucking chairs ready, and then she was like asking, "Are you okay? Like you look serious?" Like, no, I'm okay. I'm like, I'm in like in work mode, right? And then she kept on
Yeah,
asking,
you're just focused.
yeah, and then like asked me again, and she's like, "You know what? I'm not
Like, I've been good all morning. Oh, I've had those exact things.
okay." But yeah, I see
Uh,
what you mean on that. We're getting close to the end. What's something that you would want to share to the listeners that, something that's like kind of helped you out throughout life and, that you kind of want to relay a message out there. Anybody who's struggling, say confident, say looking for a job or, anything like that.
I think, I mean, just be kind to each other. I think we have this. I mean, you look politically, we have left and right. You look at race, we have all kinds of. I mean, racism. White people are not the best. I'm privileged. I know that.
Your
But
people
I
would.
think just I, I, but I think there's a lot of people are out for themselves, and I think we need more as a community just to kind of be more accepting of whatever everybody else is going through. You have to know that you just like you can have a bad day and you can be going through whatever you are. Like people have to be accepting of that and not treat you poorly because of that one day. And I think everybody just needs to be a little bit more accepting of whatever that struggle may be, mental, physical, you know, loving, not feeling loved, all kinds of stuff. People have to acknowledge those things of other people and put in the time into being a better person for other people. I
Yeah.
think I need to do a better job. I know since I've moved out and had Leia and COVID and all that stuff, I haven't been the best friend for a lot of people. You know, I have my college friends, I have all our high school friends that I feel like I'm not the best friend that I could be. and we all have our own lives, but I feel like a phone call here and there, a text here and there, to the people that you love can change somebody's day.
Yeah.
You know, I got a call from Ramos 2 weeks ago, and we talked for like an hour and a half, and then I got a call from Amir, and we talked for like an hour.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like, speaking of those two, Ramos, like, he'll text me here and there. He texted me the other day, hey, thank you for asking all the addresses, because I was gonna ask for the addresses so I can send to the wedding and stuff like that. And it's cool because, like, oh, Ramos, like, like, just a text message, just like, oh, that's
Yeah.
like, it's really cool, like, talking to Ramos. I responded like, so are you gonna RSVP, or are you just telling me that?
Oh yeah, I have to RSVP for your thing, by the way. I didn't know.
Just letting me know. It's just to let me
I'm
know.
letting you know right now. My family will be there.
All right,
on the podcast. We have it recorded.
You don't show up, Josh. It's gonna be on the
podcast. Hey, you got the receipts now.
You're gonna be on the reels, dude, if you don't show up. But yeah, and even Amir, like Amir hit me up to help him out, because he's going through a little bit of changes at his house with this whole room situation. And he told me to go help him out to throw some fucking stuff away I'll say at the dumpster. I don't want to say where we dumped it at. We'll say at the dumpster. But yeah,
Great.
but even then, like just helping out Amir, and like even seeing Amir, it's just like, man, fucking right, damn, like the times that we always hung out, such a good time. Every single time we hang out, it's such a good time, I feel like. And we're due. I think we're kind of due for the little boys' night out, in our group of friends for sure.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but yeah, man. I know it's getting a little late. I know you probably got to put lay to bed. I got to put I'll go and make sure Patty's ready to go to bed and stuff like that.
She's already to bed.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you guys all for listening. Josh, if there's anybody out there who's looking for a mentor in engineering, where can they reach you, or any advice that they can?
Instagram, I can tell you my Instagram off the top of my head.
Go ahead.
No, I can't.
Oh, you can't. I thought you said you can.
No,
I was like,
absolutely not. Joshua Hall 0426.
There we go.
Yeah, I looked it up. I can tell you that. Social media, I'm on it, but I don't participate. But if you message me, and if it's an honest message, you'll get a response.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you're
actually pretty quick about it usually.
What's up?
I'm actually pretty quick about it usually.
Yeah, you are. I'll say I'm pretty bad at responding, because like I'll get so many messages throughout the day, like boom, 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 boom. I kind of get like,
oh yeah,
this one's priority, this one's like second priority kind of thing. So I'm pretty bad at that. So yeah, I guess I'm getting better now that I've more leeway, but obviously we're getting like phone calls and stuff like that and helping out Patty. So anyways, guys, thank you guys for listening. Josh, thank you for coming on the show. It was awesome to talk to you, learn about your story, learn a lot, there's a lot of things I didn't know.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining, man. And it was cool to have this story and share your story out there to any engineering future folks out there. Now you know what to expect. Hit up Josh, start networking. You don't want to be in a situation where you get a degree and you don't know where to go from there, and get your confidence kind of shot down. There's people out there that are willing to help. Someone was willing to help Josh just overhearing his situation, and look at him now, 7 years later, he's, helping out a really big company with the drones. I know you're not too happy with the drone situation, but I think it's a really cool job, personally. And but yeah, thank you for coming, Josh. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode, baby.